On today's episode of the G3 Sportsman, we're going to see how this little device changed one young hunter's life forever. This story may change yours, or certainly put it in a whole new perspective. This hunt never sounded so good. So what do you say? Let's get it started.
I lost him.
Give me my fish.
He fell off.
That thing pulled twice as hard as a silver.
Look at this catfish!
Oh, that's good one.
Nice fish. Thank you, fish.
That's what I'm talking about. Get you some of that.
The G3 Sportsman is presented by Yamaha, when you want the best. Hey, welcome to the G3 Sportsman. You know, I've been extremely fortunate to be able to hunt and fish my entire life, and now that I hunt and fish for a living, I mean, I'm extremely lucky. But what I am truly blessed for is having all my senses, and I mean hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, all of which I have, but have, for the most part, like most of us, just taken it for granted. That is, until recently. Now, these are the everyday sounds of the outdoors. We have heard and heard and heard the same sounds so much, and you know, most of us do take these sounds for granted. Now, just for a moment, imagine how your next hunt would be without sound. This is what it's like to be deaf. For us with hearing, it's unimaginable what this would be like, being outdoors without hearing. But for my very special guest today, this has just been every day for her. Halye Wilson was born into this world a bright-eyed bundle of joy. 10 fingers and toes, 2 eyes, 2 ears, everything you look for. She was perfect. For Granddad Mike Raines and his family of Strafford, Missouri, he could not have been more happy. And for the first few months, life couldn't get any better. It was all normal, until the unthinkable.
Yeah, when Halye was born, beautiful baby. Couldn't have been any prouder of her, still am, but had no idea that there was any kind of hearing loss. We brought her home, and she was nearly a year old before we really figured it out. My wife noticed that she wasn't responding when we'd talk to her from behind, and sneak up behind her and try to give her a little spook, you know, and she just didn't respond. So we took her to St. John's Audiology Clinic, and they told us she had severe to profound hearing loss in both ears. When Halye was 5, I watched a show on 60 Minutes that had to do with cochlear implants, and it was just incredible. We started researching doctors who could do that surgery, and wound up going to Missouri Baptist Hospital in St. Louis to a Dr. Beneke, and it's been a miracle. It's the closest thing to a miracle I've ever experienced in my life. Turkey hunting is such a more sound-oriented sport than deer hunting, if you ask me, because you hear the hens yelp, you can hear the turkeys gobbling. There's always something in the woods to listen to, and I grew up with this and kind of took it for granted. It gave me a whole new perspective with Halye. I didn't know what she would be able to hear, obviously, until the implant started, until she had the implant and she started to be able to hear better. She couldn't hear any of that.
Our first morning, everybody was stoked. I mean, we were so excited and couldn't wait to get started. Mother Nature, however, she didn't read the script, and she brought on some really cold temperatures and added some sleet and snow for a bonus. Needless to say, we didn't get a turkey, and other than seeing a few off in the distance, the only birds we had greet our field was a couple of geese that, for whatever reason, decided to grace us with their presence. Later that morning, we broke camp. We tried a few other setups. but still, no birds. We walked and walked and walked, and we could not get one good setup or one bird that wanted to work. So we decided to call it a day, and we'd come back tomorrow.
Second day, had two different blinds set up. We were watching and we were listening, and Halye actually spotted this turkey first. She looked out the window up in the tree, and there was a gobbler, probably 100 yards, 80 yards behind us in the tree. Just the best setup we could possibly hope for. But when they flew down off to our side about 80 yards, 60 yards, and just wouldn't come in. The gobblers wouldn't. Hen came in and circled us, but the gobblers wouldn't. They already had the hens with them, and they didn't want to have anything to do with our decoys. I always hunted, and Halye was always right in the middle of any deer picture or turkey picture when I brought them home. It just ate it up, and she couldn't wait. She just begged me and begged me and begged me to take her hunting with me. So it was probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we started going to the woods. We'd go mushroom hunting, we'd go shed hunting, we'd go scouting. She'd go out to my tree stands with me, and 3 or 4 years ago, she wanted to start shooting. So we got my 22 out. She just burned box after box after box of 22 shells. We went on this first turkey hunt this spring in the youth season. I didn't know, honestly, how much she would be able to hear. Besides her hearing loss, we were going to be in a blind part of the time, and it was just really exciting to me, and I know it was exciting to Halye. The first gobble that she heard, and I knew she heard, you could see it in her face and in her eyes. It was just a heck of a thrilling moment.
Right on top of us. Good one, kill. You think you got them figured out? I don't know. They get the best of you every time, it seems like.
I think he fell out of the blind. Push it on over, Halye. Push it on over. You know, when I was approached by my buddy Rick Lowry about doing this show, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know whether I had to maybe shoot this thing different or cater to some needs that I wasn't familiar with. But after meeting Halye, she just pretty much told me under no circumstances does she want to be treated any different than anybody else. And for the most part, she isn't any different than any other kid I've ever hunted with. They're just fidgety, eager, raring to go, and full of energy.
When I first got my implant, I could hear birds, and I could hear a lot of new things. And it's real short because used to I get to be able to hear birds gobbling or the deer grunting or any stuff like that. So this implant really helped me a lot with all the stuff I hear.
You know, in the meantime, I wanted to know more about this little device that gave Halye something that she thought she probably would never have. Lisa Geyer, an audiologist of Springfield, Missouri, knows Halye and was kind enough to explain how cochlear implants really work.
Cochlear implants are for adults and children that have severe to profound sensory neural hearing loss, and it consists of an implant that has some electronics plus an electrode array that gets put into the inner ear, plus the external parts that are worn behind the ear and then on the head. And that consists of a sound processor, microphone, and a headpiece that actually transmits the information across the skin to the implant. Now how it works is, in a normal ear, sound comes into the system, goes through the ear canal, vibrates the eardrum, moves the middle ear bones, and then all that energy gets transferred into the inner ear through actually sound waves that are processed in fluid. And then what happens is the hair cells that are in that fluid begin to move. Below those hair cells are nerve fibers that connect to the auditory portion of the brain. So when those little hair cells are stimulated, then the brain interprets that information as sound. When you have sensory neural hearing loss, those hair cells are damaged and either no longer there or they don't work very well. And so what we do is we bypass those broken hair cells and we put an electrode array or electrical stimulation directly on the hearing nerve. And then the brain takes that electrical stimulation and interprets it as sound.
You love to hunt, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best part about hunting?
Well, it's the excitement. That's the best part. And it's just so excited to go hunting. It's just all my excitement. That's my favorite part.
And just everything out there, you just didn't realize how many sounds there are out there, did you? I mean, we got birds and
Birds, deer, turkeys,
there's just
Cars.
everything going on, isn't it?
ducks, geese,
Yeah,
the fish, splashing water.
yeah. I mean,
Frogs.
and you can hear all that now, can't you? That is cool.
So then here we go to the third morning. Third morning of her hunt. It was during the regular season. Mark Smith, friend of ours from Bolivar, was gracious enough to let us hunt on his land. Before daylight, once again, we hadn't roosted any birds, but before daylight, we knew an area where the birds had been hanging around, and he heard gobblers in there earlier in the year, earlier in the season. Set up with a blind. Heard turkeys gobble off in the distance on a far hill. We looked across on the other hillside, and a hen and a gobbler crossed this an open spot. We could see them. Rick and Mark were both calling. We watched them go down, disappear into a little draw, and then pop up on our side, coming right at us. Big bird, full strut, gobbling every step, following the hen in. The hen came in front of us to our decoys. The gobbler wouldn't quite do it.
When he comes back around, I'll tell you.
Awesome display, but just what I thought was just out of Halye's range with this little 20 gauge we were shooting. She wanted to pull the trigger, I wanted her to shoot this bird, but he never would take the 4 or 5 more steps that I thought was necessary to get him in range, and he eventually wandered away, and I was so depressed. The big bird, chance, perfect chance was there, and he got away from us. And I second-guessed myself the rest of the day about not letting her pull the trigger on that bird.
He didn't know how far that fence was. That's going to be about 30, 32 yards, what that's going to be. I think he thought that was farther. Probably. Man, he was a good bird. He come about that gun half mile over here. At least. I'm sorry, guys. I probably should have had her shoot that. I didn't want her to shoot too soon and screw it all up.
So we sat there a little bit later. I'm kicking myself about the big gobbler getting away. We looked down the other direction, and there were a group of 4 or 5 jakes, just kind of slowly meandering our way. We had a decoy set up out in front of us, and they were just kind of picking their way up toward us. And I knew if they kept coming, I knew this was going to be a shot opportunity for Halye. I wasn't going to let these birds get away without at least letting her pull the trigger on one of them if they got in any kind of decent range. So they came. It seemed like it took forever, and I just knew I think I was more excited than Halye. My heart was pumping, and I was trying to peek out this little hole in the blind, and they finally got close enough that I think they were within range. It looked to me like they had the idea that they were going to wander away, so I thought it was now or never.
When the other one's clear, you get him. Get the wheelie, get out of the way. They're coming. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll walk down there. We'll walk down there and find him.
Yeah, here we.
Well, Mark, thank you.
Hey.
Thanks for bringing us up
All
here.
right.
We appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Good deal.
My
I bet
pleasure.
she's gonna be excited.
Anytime it's for
Let's
these
go
kids,
talk.
man, it's
I know. Let's go talk.
that's what it's all about. You ducked in that brush.
Are you excited?
Oh man, are you excited? I don't know if you're any more excited than I am.
He's dead.
That's a fine beard, Halye. Give me some of that.
Give me a kiss. I love you.
I don't want no handshake. I want a hug.
And she was wanting to take her out of school again tomorrow if she didn't.
How come you didn't shoot the big bird?
Yeah, I like this one instead.
You wanted this
She
one?
liked this one better.
That's perfect. The big one was a little iffy. Oh, we worked birds all morning. They'd come in and out. Finally, that big one come out. I think he come a good quarter. He started down here and came all the way up.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't see him where you're at, but he run the whole length across the ditch and came up.
Is that right? We saw him cross up above and then lost track of him.
Well, that's a good bird. Your first turkey. I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
I am too, Rick.
Except I'm cold.
Well, you learn how to tag your bird, and you always want to remember as soon as you kill your bird and you've got him down, you want to unload your gun first, and the first thing you need to do is tag your bird, like you did here, and that way you don't forget, go to town, get in trouble. People have done that out of the excitement of everything, and being this for your first turkey, well, you done good. You done the right thing.
Halye, anybody out there that is in a similar situation as you and would be thinking about cochlear implants or something and scared of the operation or whatever else, what do you got to tell people that they don't have to be that worried about? What's the benefit, from getting these cochlear implants?
Well, it's getting to become to hear all the other things that you've never heard before. You can hear the TV, if you go hunting, you can hear all the turkeys, the deer, the geese, any animal out there. And it's just really exciting, and to get off to hear music. You get to do all new kinds of things that you probably never done before. And it's really excited to get an implant.
Now she can talk on the phone. She can carry on a conversation to a certain point with her back turned. We know when she doesn't answer us, she's ignoring us rather than not being able to hear us. It's just been a blessing from God.
This, piece of equipment looks very cumbersome to have to wear, but, people really bond with their cochlear implants because of what it allows them to do. It allows them to, participate in hunting and fishing and talking with people in their community. So, Haley doesn't mind wearing this equipment because of everything it does for her.
I want to thank Haley and Mike for allowing me a few days to spend with them out there turkey hunting. It's certainly inspiring to see someone like Haley rise from adversity and never complain a day about her shortcomings. She's an inspiration to all. That's all we got for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you somewhere next week, right here on the G3 Sportsman.
I said that Rick's job is to find a turkey. Your job is to film. Papa's job is to tell me when to get my gun out. My job is to shoot.
This morning, I said on film a while ago, I told everybody that I took you out of school on Monday, you called in sick. But I brought you turkey hunting. The whole world's going to know that now.
That's all, folks.